Work by Toppany there just to put the brakes on Fastmaker, regroup behind goal. Less than a minute left now. Still the top line of the Toronto power play out there with Sarah Nurse and Natalie Spooner. Boston gets it back to the neutral zone. Toronto regains. Connors tries to find Spooner. Boston clears again.
It's a sloppy pass, and it's an easy takeaway by Emily Brown to get the clear.
1:20 left in regulation. 35 seconds left on the Toronto power play. Nice move by Turnbull. Her shot is wide. Frankel had to do a split to make sure that one went outside. Campbell thinking about going off the bench, and she does.
We are in the last minute here, coming up to the last minute of this exciting game between Toronto and Boston. If you can see on your screen here that Toronto is in a power play. 1 minute left. If Toronto gets this into overtime and goes to the shootout or wins in overtime, they've clinched a spot in the playoffs starting on May 8th. The Professional Women's Hockey League tonight, an exciting night. Montreal, Minnesota, as well as Toronto and Boston playing 3-2 in the Montreal-Boston game. I'm watching on the side here. I tried to bring both up, but didn't have any luck on that. So they're back to the face-off. Toronto has used up their timeouts. Minnesota, Montreal. Checking in with the Minnesota-Montreal game. Minnesota is winning 3-2 against Montreal at the same time. That game winding down. 4 minutes and 40 seconds left in the Minnesota-Montreal game. All right, so back to this exciting game here tonight between Boston and Montreal. Boston has to win. Really, they do. They don't have many more chances to make the playoff. Right now, they are in second last place with only New York behind them. Back to the action on the ice here. I'm not sure what we were just looking at. We'll switch so I can see this a little better. I'm looking at the full screen, okay? So between me and you, Boston and Toronto, Boston up 2-1. We have the commentators doing an excellent job here presenting this game. I'm looking forward to learning about these people as time goes on. But for some reason, let's see. All right, the goal scorer. Here we go. Let's watch. 40 seconds left. Toronto has an empty net. Here's Toronto. They have to bring this puck all the way back down the ice, but Boston's defense is amazing. Scoots it down the ice to the very end and pass by the blue line first, making the clock stop with 16.4 seconds left. It's icing. It's going to return back to the Boston end, and they do a great job at the end of that power play. And as well, with the empty net, the fans are cheering vigorously in the background, and the commentators are keeping up with the volume on both sides. Over the Minnesota-Montreal game, Minnesota still winning 3-2 in the winding down moments, but here in Toronto, still pronouncing the second T in Toronto. The announcer moves on to this probably last playoff face-off. I mean, all right. Referee stooped over, glides between the players, correcting other players, getting ready for the puck drop. The puck drop back to the Toronto player, and the Toronto player out front swipes on top of the puck, and Boston may have a shot off on an empty net over to center ice. 5 seconds left to go. The fans get to their feet, yelling and screaming. It looks like this game's a wrap. Boston has won this game, an important win with a fight at the end here. We've got a physical fight. Number 3 still holding on to their sticks. An unusual behavior in a hockey fight to have the sticks still swinging. So first surprise here. At the end of this game, it gets rowdy, but it breaks up quickly. The players gripping their hockey sticks, still crowding around, hugging each other. The game ends. It was a flare-up of emotions, an engram acted out in a physical way, ritual, ceremonious celebration, mixing, the fans exit the stadium, and an exciting event tonight. Thank you to the players. Boston gets their 5th regulation win and Toronto's 7th loss. The final score, 2-1, Boston over Toronto on this April 18th game. An update over to the Montreal game. Hold on, folks. There's another example of the fight at the end there. A little bit of wrestling, but someone could have really been hurt by those sticks that you don't normally see in a hockey fight. There's a really sharp jab to the ribs that looked a little unnecessary, to be frank. 1 second left, and the Toronto player dives at the ribs of the Boston player. So uncalled for sure. Love to see some highlights and some commentary on that final hit at the end of the game there. The Toronto player dives into the ribs of the Boston player. Totally unfair. Back to the Minnesota-Montreal game. We're getting reviews. We're getting information from the Minnesota-Montreal game. If you give me a moment here, I will take you over to that game as we exit Toronto and head over to Montreal, Minnesota. Get rid of that. Don't know what that is. And full screen. We'll bring on the volume. This is the end of the Minnesota-Montreal game. I believe we are still live. We are. It's not showing the time left in the game. However, I believe we are right there at the end. 1 minute left. The score was just recently tied by Montreal, making it 3-3 Minnesota-Montreal. I'm hoping not. Montreal scores another goal in less than 3 minutes to go ahead in the game. We're switching over to the Montreal-Minnesota game. We'll check that box, the window camera. Tune in for this. Listen while I change the score. Oh my gosh. Listen.
Here and get a good chance for Montreal. We know she can weave in and out of a lot of players here. Just about everyone is able to put that puck back out to the point, settle it down. And again, O'Neill in the high slot here just elects to put that puck towards the net. Wasn't the prettiest shot, and it just bounces right over Rooney. And Montreal has the lead.
Highest scoring game between these two teams. Always keeping it close, always keeping it interesting. Kristen O'Neill's 2nd goal of the game. And we talk about how Marie-Philippe Pwhl is captain clutch. It also comes down to how she can distribute the puck.
Of course, she's captain clutch because she is a 200-foot player. She can play all over the ice. Her presence is needed with her team, whether or not on the ice, off the ice, all around.
Minnesota, don't count them out just yet. They win the draw on the opening, or rather at center ice. But now, chasing it down, they've pulled Maddie Rooney. In time, winding down, it is 6-on-5 Minnesota. That centering feed picked off Katie Taven. There's an empty net. Laura Stacey.
The game winds down here. Minnesota-Montreal. 4-3 Montreal. We are winding down our seconds. 10 seconds left. Montreal comes back up from behind. A 3-2 deficit to a 4-3 win. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. We'll get back to the commentaries to describe how it feels here at the end of this game.
Three-point regulation win as well. The playoff pursuit, my goodness. It is hot, it is here, and Montreal setting the tone, ending their skid and also ending Minnesota's streak.
What a game for both of these teams, but this third period for Montreal, they hit the gas and came out on top. They've got to be happy with their play today, especially in the last 2 minutes of this game here.
So many points tonight. Pwhl April. Of course, Kristen O'Neill getting the game winner. And she opened everything up on the power play in the first period.
Wow, what a night. What an amazing return to the regular season since the last games was March 24th, so 25th. So it's been 3 weeks. And so what an exciting night. Toronto did not clinch a playoff spot. Boston did survive to play again. Minnesota, Montreal came back. I can't even describe the excitement of the Montreal-Minnesota game. And thank you, PWHL. Solid handshake at the end of the Montreal-Minnesota game. Not raucous and precarious, like Belos, you might say, like the Boston-Toronto finish. A vicious jab from the Toronto player into the ribs of the Boston player. And sad to see an end like that, but we'll move on. 4 more games for most of the teams, and we'll look forward to a great time. I'll hopefully be back again to commentary a little bit on this PWHL wrapping up their season and then beginning their playoffs. Thanks a lot, everybody. Lots of love. Good night from your personality shows.